topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Illinois. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Got an exciting show for you today. For the next 50 minutes, I think this is probably one of the most important topics with how the economy is going now. And people are really hurting out there. So we have our expert today is Kevin Benjamin. He has been with us for several years now. And for some reason, hey, we'll thank the Lord on this one. Some reason his, I guess, numbers have just shot up. And I just want to tell people we really appreciate it. Kevin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing? Thanks.
So, Kevin, tell people about Noble Tax Relief and Benjamin Law, because we're going to be talking on both areas today.
Well, I'm an attorney, Kevin Benjamin. I do a lot of foreclosure work, litigation, Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11, business and consumer, restructuring debts, tax resolution with the IRS or certain states, basically get people out of debt and save their properties and stop liens and levies, that kind of stuff. Noble Tax Relief is an offshoot of Benjamin Legal Services. It's just strictly tax resolution, though it's still me doing it. So it's whether it's Benjamin Legal Services or Noble Tax Relief. But Noble Tax Relief just concentrates on tax resolution.
Hey, Kevin, have you noticed, in the last 3 to 4 months, with the economy, I mean, people are really hurting. Have you noticed your legal load going up, or is it still about the same?
Well, with the government shutdown, it was kind of slowing down because it's funny because like IRS automated letters are still going out, threatening levies and liens, but who's doing it? Now, of course, as of yesterday, or they're back in business, but there's going to be a backlog of things. Also, the resolutions we were trying to maintain and continue with, it was hard to get someone on the phone or even if they had an agent or an officer assigned. It's hard it's been delayed for a few months. So it's going to pick up, but they're going to have a backlog. So things are going to be slowing down as far as that goes.
I want to start off with tax relief first. And we have received, we started promoting your show several days out. We have received so many questions in the Illinois area. Our first one is, what are some of the common misconceptions taxpayers have about IRS tax collection?
That the IRS, if they're going to work it out with you, that's one misconception. The IRS will work it out with you. It's we try to work out what's called a reasonable collection potential. And there's different tax resolutions. There's offer and compromise. There's installment agreements. There's what's called currently non-collectible, also effective tax administration. But generally speaking, it's offer and compromise, or it's a installment agreement. And there's different programs even with those. There's a full pay installment agreement. There's a partial pay installment agreement. And then depending on where you are, how much you owe, whether it's a streamline or non-streamline, and how much documents you need, and et cetera. And are you assigned a revenue officer or a revenue agent, or are you in the automatic collection system? That all dictates a lot of things. A misconception is they won't work with you. That's not true. Another misconception is somebody's frauds. They're not calling you on the phone. Okay, they're not sending you an email, and they're not sending you a text. The IRS does not do that. They send you letters. That's it. So be careful of these scams, right? Be careful of these like ERC scams, employment retention credits. I'm seeing a lot of scams with these gas taxes and stuff. People claiming, these bookkeepers or some scammers that say that they'll do your return, get your big refund, and they do take a big false fraudulent tax credit. Maybe a year or so before the IRS catches it, they catch it, they reverse it. You owe money. Now you got to pay. And then also, if you're involved in that, you may go to the criminal division, because the IRS has a civil and a criminal division. So another misconception is, I don't have the money to pay. How am I going to pay? Bad's going to happen. Well, that's what the offer of compromise is for. Okay. So help us help you. Show me why you can't pay. We have some people, like maybe they had a business before and things like that, and now things have changed. They owed a lot of money before, but now they don't have that income or other assets. But also, are you what's called dissipating assets? Are you giving them away? And that's why you can't pay. That you can't really do. But generally speaking, let's say I have people 50, 100 million, 3 million. So 3 million. How am I going to pay, Kevin? What you're not? Okay. You're probably going to qualify for an offer and compromise, but we got to pay the reasonable collection potential and figure that out. And the IRS, we got to make the IRS see that, right? You can't get blood out of a stone, right? It's not criminal to owe the IRS money. It could be criminal in the way you owe the IRS money. Maybe you committed fraud or something like that, but that's a different story, okay? But just owing the money, maybe there's penalties and interest, stuff like that. That's not criminal. Sometimes it could be dischargeable in bankruptcy as well. So there's the offer and compromise, there's the installment agreement, there's partial pay, potential discharge in bankruptcy, restructuring, Chapter 13 or 11, paid over 5 years. All kinds of ways to resolve it. The IRS just wants to resolve it. They want to get you back into the tax system. That's all they want, right? I had someone call me yesterday. They want to file 15 years of tax returns. I don't do tax returns, okay? They probably don't have to go back 15 years. It's 10 years on the statute of limitations, depending on tolling events and things of that nature. But generally speaking, you go back 6 or 7 years, the IRS wants to get you back in the system. Just want to get back, be compliant. If you can go 6 or 7, usually they'll just take that. If you owe money, then you work out a payment or an offer and compromise, and then you're compliant. And then that's it. They won't bother you. You got to stay compliant and make your payments, or if it's an offer and compromise, maybe it's just a lump sum. But they don't know. They don't know what the deal is. So all these misconceptions are, I can't pay, don't open my mail. That's not true.
Our next question is from Chicago area. They want to know, first of all, what a great show. I found it at the right time. I own a business. I am what you would call a mom and pop business. What are red flags the IRS looks for when it comes to taxes owed for businesses?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, there's a way of being, aggressive on your taxes, and another way is being like overly, crazy on it, right? So you talk to your tax advisor. Maybe you're being a little aggressive on some deductions that are valid, right? But if you're taking invalid things, those are red flags. You got a personal business, that's a red flag also. They're checking for you. Are you having a home office? Are you claiming, too much for that? Travel expenses, food, that kind of stuff, falsifying those kind of documents, taking credits that aren't yours, stuff like that. So, being aggressive is one thing, but being crazy, that's going to get you audited and a red flag.
happens when a taxpayer first falls behind on their tax payments? What's the first thing that happens?
Well, you get a letter from the IRS saying, "Hey, you forgot to pay." I mean, depending on where you are in the stage, like if you just fell behind, or you didn't, you're current before, but you're late on your last year's returns, you get that letter. There's different letters. I'm saying, like your notice of intent to levy, final notice, all these different things, and your business or small person. But generally speaking, they contact you by mail and say, "Hey, let's work this out." We hire someone like ourselves. They give you collection due process rights, appeal rights. They give you all the information. If you can't make a payment, they try to induce you to work with them, which some people do. They go online. Oh, I can just fill out a form. Yeah, sure you can. And I have a lot of people calling me. Oh, I have an installment agreement. What are you calling me for? Well, I can't afford it. Who did it for you? With the IRS. How's that working out for you? They're not. I mean, well, the IRS said I could just pay so and so. Yeah, but they didn't analyze. I mean, they're not working for you, And if you pay what they say, that's great. But you could have qualified for more. How long can you go on the installment agreement? I mean, how much do you owe? And even the tax amount you owe. Let's say it's 40 grand, just making up a number, right? Someone calls, I owe 40 grand. Well, that's true. But is it for 1 year or 2 years or 6 years, 5? So you got to break down the 40,000. What tax year is what? Analyze potential discharge dates for each tax year, collection statute expiration dates for each tax year, assessment expiration dates, all these different things, right? And that all goes into what we're going to present. What are your options, the pros and cons of each, make an informed decision. Let's get a plan together. Maybe we could discharge some of the taxes, maybe all of it. Maybe if we some now, some in a month or two. What's the timing? What are the facts, right? And then depending on the expiration dates will dictate on which years we can go longer or shorter on an installment agreement, plus all your income and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes involved in it. It's a matter of having a professional representative do this for you, be the buffer, so to speak, have the power of attorney on file. The IRS likes to work with lawyers, CPAs, or enrolled agents because they know that, we know what they're talking about on documents. The negotiation is really your income, how much equity is on certain things, what's the value on certain things, what expenses are we taking under a formula, IRS guidelines. We're saying this amount, they're saying that amount. Also, certain assets, are they really liquid or not? So there's all kinds of, that's how you negotiate with the IRS. It's the facts. It's not about, hey, let's just start talking percentages. That's not how it works. It's just facts, and they work with you. And by the way, if they say no, there's appellate levels. I mean, you talk to the manager, you talk to the appeals officer, U.S. tax court, and I'll tell you if you're my client, what I think. I'm saying so. Just because the initial person would turn it down, if they do, doesn't mean it's over. That's just someone's opinion, right? Now, maybe we're doing it for you, and maybe you wanted to be aggressive. But I'm saying maybe you qualify for an offer in compromise. I'm thinking this is the range, and you want the small. Yeah, okay, so maybe they turned down. Maybe we submit a new one because I knew there was a range there. But if there's you may qualify for more than one thing. You may qualify for an installment agreement, even partial pay, and an offer in compromise. Well, which one? Which is better, right? So the government also is analyzing you. Do you qualify for more than one? We say, okay, offer a compromise, you qualify, but it's X dollars, right? Then they're like, well, gee, you can go full pay, I can get or even partial pay, I can get this much more. Is that better deal for the government? Depends on the amount, right? So if it's more, but not really that much more, a bird in the hand, so to speak, they may just take the money. Because even making payments, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, even sometimes longer, who knows if it's going to continue, right? There's a cost of doing business. There's the risk factor there. So that's how we analyze. You may qualify for both, and we may want one, they may want the other, and then that's another negotiation.
Kevin, I've done enough shows with you to know the answer to this question, but I'm going to let you go ahead. So the caller says he owes back taxes can he file for bankruptcy on the back taxes?
Maybe. How's that for an answer? So, generally speaking, taxes to the IRS are not dischargeable in general. They're not dischargeable unless they are. How's that sound, right? So there's exceptions to dischargeability. And like I was saying before, like you owe X, but is it for one tax year or different tax years? You got to analyze each tax year, because each tax year there's a certain date that you would qualify for bankruptcy discharge. So I would analyze all of those. So for example, I had someone, over $100,000 one time, but it's different tax years, and they all file. I'm like, wait a second. I think it was like, and this time it's like I can file now and get rid of 23,000, but I can file, in a month and then another 10, and then wait another month, another 20. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? So, but then again, sometimes people have like, maybe they're facing foreclosure and the property's going to sale, and it's like in 2 days, I got to file now, something. So there's a tolling event there. So, but just want to have the facts. When is the dischargeability of each tax year? Can I discharge it? If I can, great. If I can't, when? And if you can discharge it, that doesn't mean you want to file. I got people all the time. I could get rid of them and they're qualifying for dischargeability. But what other assets do you have? Are we risking those?
Right.
Other qualifications. Now in Illinois, bankruptcy is federal law, state exemptions. And Illinois got not such great exemptions. Finally, after decades, they're giving a little raise to them in January, which is only 6 weeks away. I mean, I said someone an hour ago calling. There's a lot of equity in the house. I'm going to probably wind up filing this case in January, because with the extra exemptions, I could discharge a lot of their loans and credit cards, or get pennies on the dollar while I'm saving their house, more so than if I did it now, because of the other higher exemptions give less equity on what they call the liquidation analysis. So it's more qualifying. In her case, she's not at risk of losing the house before January. So that works. Someone else called the other day, but there's a sale coming up this year. Got to file now. So that's why you have a professional. So whoever that caller is, you can call me and we can talk about it, because which tax years are they? Are they dischargeable? We could do an analysis, and then we got to see about other assets and liabilities. And there's Chapter 7, there's Chapter 13, there's personal Chapter 11. Sometimes it's a combination, which is really like doing a 13, paying some bills in full and some at less than full. So there's all kinds of strategies, but that's a real general question. Are taxes dischargeable? Generally, no, but there are exceptions. But I need a lot more information than just that question. But I'm happy to talk to you. My number's on the screen. I'll give it to you. 312-853-3100, benjaminlaw.com. You can go on the website and even fill out your contact information, and go on my Calendly link, calendly.com/Kevin Benjamin. There's my calendar there as well. And, the consultation's free. So happy to help you.
Here's another great question. This came in. When should a taxpayer consider seeking professional help for their tax collection issues with the IRS?
Immediately.
Yeah, I already knew the answer to that one too.
I mean, what's the point of delaying it? It's not going away. It's just going to get worse, especially if they're giving you notices that you're not even opening up the mail or reading. You have like collection notices or due process notices for appeals, and you're blowing the deadlines, or you're getting a notice of intent to levy. The clock's ticking, and even if someone comes in late, if they hire us, we get a power of attorney on file with the IRS and try to get them, even hopefully the same day, even try to get them on and try to get a collection hold, to put that off. Because if you're just ignoring the deadlines, they're just going to proceed. But if you got someone, I say, hey, they just came in. They only have 4 days left on your notice, but let me analyze and get documents. Okay, and then they'll start working with me, on deadlines and getting things going.
Kevin, and we're going to be talking about bankruptcy in a few minutes, but the letters that we get, it seems like there's so many people who don't really understand the importance of having a professional like yourself handling this with the IRS, could you explain to them in your words why it's so important that they secure your services when it comes to the IRS?
Because you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you could be your own lawyer, your own doctor. People think they go on ChatGPT now, and all those are all the answers, or Google. Everyone thinks they're a professional now, but they're not. You don't know what you're doing. Plus, you're the one liable. You're the one talking to them. They're trained. For example, they ask you a question, right? They're trained just to listen, because then people think, oh, there's pause. You just keep rambling. You don't know what you're saying, right? Next thing you know, oh, what? Now they're going somewhere, they're going deeper. But also, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to analyze it. Like I was saying a little while ago, some people just go online. Oh, I just go online at the IRS. There's a form to fill out, or they just call the IRS and they just did their own own installment agreement right online. Great. Someone called one time and asked, how can we do an installment agreement? Huh? Oh, they didn't mention that to you. Okay. I mean, maybe they didn't qualify either, but they're not looking out for you, right? So yeah, anybody can fill out a form and didn't say how to make payments, but then are those the right payments? Can you get larger? Can you get smaller? Is it reasonable? Because sometimes you're scared. Okay, they're saying pay this. Oh, I think I could do it, and you want to do it, but you can't, right? And if it's an installment agreement, why? How about a partial paid installment agreement? Did you qualify for that? Did you qualify for offering compromise? Did you qualify for what's called currently non-collectible, which will just put a hold on it for up to 2 years, not automatically 2 years, where you show some certain things and they say, okay, we're going to back off right now. You're having a real hardship here. We'll get back to you, every like 6 months, how things going for up to a couple of years. And then when you're ready, to go, you go. Do you qualify for bankruptcy? How do you know? You don't know if it's dischargeable. You don't know the statute expiration dates on each tax year that you owe, or the assessment date, or were there any tolling events? How about what assets are at risk? Offering compromise includes your cash flow and some liquidation of your assets value-wise, right? Not you have to liquidate, you got to put that in the formula. Partial pay doesn't include that. So maybe a partial pay, you don't qualify for offering compromise because of a certain thing. I have people like, like 300,000 equity in an investment property, you owe like 50 grand. You're not getting an offer of compromise, right? You might get a partial pay, so let's work on that. So that's why you have a professional. Plus, you don't want to be doing it yourself. You don't know what you're doing.
It's Kevin, I've learned from doing so many shows with you also that people can actually say the wrong thing to the IRS. So
Sure.
even talking to them initially before they secure services can really mess up the matter even worse. And they should contact you right away and not even try, because once they sign with you, they don't even have to talk to the IRS anymore.
Right. Exactly. Talk to me. I talk to them. Yeah. And I meet with them if necessary. If I want you coming with me, I'll let you know. Most likely I don't. But there's also audits or on-site audits. I mean, there's different things people have. It's not always income tax. It could be like the trust fund recovery. Could be a business situation. Maybe they want an on-site inspection. Everyone has the different tax issues. You were paying the sales tax. You got employees. So I'd go on site with you. But if it's just income, usually, sometimes I meet in person with the IRS. Sometimes I'm just doing it with them, remotely. Even sometimes when I have an appointment with the IRS for in-person meeting, if I've had the collection information sheet filled out and the certain documents that I'm going to present, sometimes I'm talking to the agent and say, well, just send it over right now. Let's just continue this right now instead of be driving out somewhere. So they want to review it first, I'm saying. So you don't always need to, I don't always need to be in person, but sometimes I do.
Someone just asked just now, they wanted to know, do you accompany your clients when the IRS does an audit?
Yeah. That's what I was just talking about. So there's difference. Like sometimes this is a tax resolution, but sometimes there's audits, and sometimes they're on-site audits, or sometimes they're in person, and sometimes in person I may not need you there. I'm saying sometimes I would, but yeah, absolutely. But the point is, I'm representing you. So of course I'm going with you if you're going. If I need you to come, okay. Otherwise, I mean, I'm going either way. But just because they want you doesn't mean I'm bringing you. You know what I'm saying? I'll decide that with you because you don't necessarily have to go always.
I want to alert people we're going to be moving over into bankruptcy now. But if you have a relative, a friend, uh, it doesn't matter if they're in another state. I'm telling you, you should call Kevin Benjamin because you would be doing them such a huge favor by and I gotta Kevin, I'm seeing more and more national commercials on there, and they're basically making promises to you when they don't even know what your case is about. And that's one of the things I love about you, Kevin. You tell it the way it is. They might not like what they're hearing, but at least you tell them the way it is.
Right. Don't always tell you what you want to hear, that's for sure. But I will tell you what it is.
But you're so, and people love your stories. Every time you do a story about a client, we don't give out any names. They
Right.
don't have any idea who it is, but people really enjoy the stories because sometimes it actually fits what they're going through.
Yeah, that's why I try to give examples because that makes people understand more what's happening. Instead of me just like lecturing you on here's the law.
Yeah, but you know what's I think is so great about your firm, Kevin, is that these some of these national and you're when it comes to federal tax, you can handle taxes in any state, but these national companies that make you feel like they can help you when let me tell you something. I know there's times, Kevin, when you've seen there's nothing you could do for somebody and you let them know that. And from some of the due diligence I've done, reading Google reports on these companies, they just many of them, I got to tell you, Kevin, just take your money and then you don't hear from them again.
Yeah, there's usually something I could do for somebody. It may not be what you want,
Yeah,
but there's always, there's a resolution. People have preconceived notices because they talk to their friend or someone else did something or what they want to hear, right? And no, someone's telling me so and so. I understand someone's telling you so and so, and you like that answer better, but it's not going to happen because X, Y, Z. And so you have to give a reality check. But there's always a resolution. It may not be one that you like, but sometimes you're in denial and you have to just face the facts that, a lot of this is civil. It's not criminal. There are criminal. I've had criminal tax cases, but there's not a lot of people that I'm getting that are in the criminal division. It's just your own money, right? So we got to resolve it one way or the other. I have a case in Wisconsin, a company, they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS. They went, someone else was doing the resolution. They wouldn't do it. They started levying all their receivables, basically put them out of business and all the employees. So they hired me to file Chapter 11. They didn't want to file Chapter 11, but they're back in business, and the IRS now doesn't have, I could pay that in 5 years, which was more than they were offering. And I could make the IRS do it instead of having to ask. In this case,
Kevin, the biggest question we get about bankruptcy is people wanting to know when is the right time. One of the letters we got, his friend said, "You don't owe enough to declare bankruptcy. You need to find other ways." But when is
if his friend says so, that changes everything, right? What does his friend know, right? And there's no minimum dollar amount. $10,000. I'm not saying to file bankruptcy for $10,000, but $10,000 to one person is like 300 grand to somebody else. It's
Right.
could be chump change to one person. It could be, I had someone call today, they owe $12,000, right? But they're to be garnished, and as a single mom, and she can't afford to be garnished. So, and then she has some credit cards, some other stuff. We may get rid of it for her, but she doesn't want to file, but she's got a judgment against her. And I told her, they got a judgment. I mean, you didn't fight the case, and now they have an order, they can garnish you. I can't stop that. I mean, there's certain defenses, certain money you could exempt, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, you could restructure it or get rid of it. But there's no dollar amount. It depends on your situation, okay? And I've had people with low dollar amounts that I didn't even want to do. Not for years, I mean, years ago, and they're like, well, someone else will do it. Like, okay, I mean, because I have to answer to the U.S. trustee's office in the court. If you file for, $2,000, Mr. Benjamin, how much is your fee? What are you doing? I'm saying, so because the court, see, in bankruptcy, the attorneys, the debtor attorneys, not the creditor attorneys, because they own everything with the banking lobby, right? We have to file fee disclosures under penalty of perjury. I'm charging X, and in my home jurisdiction, we got to actually show the contract. Okay, so the court and the trustees, the 7 trustee, 13 trustee, U.S. trustee, and the court are overseeing what you're doing. Are you scamming somebody? What's going on? Now, sometimes I've had not $2,000, lower cases, and there's a reason for it, something like that. Or I have some people that are not that much, and then maybe they're like retired, and maybe they're elderly, and I tell them, you don't really have to file if you're on Social Security. If you're actually having your money properly segregated, not commingled, it'll be exempt. I could tell someone, you don't have to file. They can't get it. Just handle yourself like this. But then sometimes it's like, people get really nervous. Creditors get aggressive. I've had the family call me, just file for my grandma and my mom, because they don't want to have a heart attack because someone's hounding them. You know what I'm saying? So by the same token, maybe you don't have to because you're exempt stuff, because you're, maybe you're retired, and but then in that same situation, you filed, so what? You know what I'm saying? You're not buying a house again, right? You probably already have one, but you're not getting a new one. You got your car, and credit's twofold. It's like the first step of getting your credit fixed is to get out of debt, right? People will give you loans again, right? So it's not a problem. That's all this 10-year crap is BS. But it depends on what you do to reestablish. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's situation is different, but a lot of creditors, they want you back in the game. But there's no minimum dollar amount, and I don't care what their friends say.
Another question I was really surprised about is there's so many people who don't know the difference between Chapter 11, 7, and 13, but also that there's other means out there. There's other chapters out there. But can you explain at least the 7,
Sure.
11, and 13?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of Chapter 9 is for governments. Chapter 12 is for farmers. Chapter 11 is usually a corporation, though a person can do an individual Chapter 11. Sometimes they have to. Generally speaking, someone does a 7 or a 13. Chapter 7 is like a straight bankruptcy. When someone says, I'm filing bankruptcy, you're getting out of debt. It's a liquidation, but you only liquidate non-exempt assets. So usually you're not losing anything because, it's either exempt or you don't have it, right? Chapter 13 is like a court-ordered bill consolidation. 5 years the most, 60 months. Some bills you can pay in full. Sometimes some bills you can pay less than in full, depending on liquidation analysis and income. That's why you have a lawyer. But it's a court-ordered bill consolidation. Like your credit cards, if you're paying them back, it'd be 0 interest, if you've been paying them in full. So you keep your house, keep your car if you want to, keep your assets. I got someone called yesterday thinking about filing. He's like, hey, I may have well, first of all, he's got to qualify because he's making some good money. And then he's getting a bonus maybe in the 15 grand, maybe in January. And so he may wind up being a 13 unless I can get him into the 7 because there's deductions. But I told him, if you file in January with the higher exemptions and you get your bonus, I mean, you can keep that. You got to disclose it, but you keep all your assets and your income. 60 months the most for a 13. If you could afford to pay it back faster, you can, but you don't have to. So keep your equity, keep your cash, keep everything, and it's great. Chapter 11, there's different kinds. There's a regular Chapter 11. There's a single asset real estate Chapter 11. There's a small business Chapter 11. Then there's what's called a sub 5 Chapter 11. Different things and dollar amounts and all that kind of stuff, restructuring situations. Chapter 13 also has what they call debt limits. Stupid and ridiculous, but they do. So sometimes you're over the limit. Now you're doing an individual Chapter 11. But also sometimes there's reasons for 11 because 13 has the 60 months max, where Chapter 11 doesn't. So I have some individuals who tried at 13, like for example, maybe 130,000 arrears on a mortgage. A little tight on they have money, but 60 months on the catching up on that was kind of tight. Right now, like on one, which we're trying 90 months. Creditors just talked to me and said maybe less than 90, but it's going to be more than 60. Make it more affordable. I'm saying, but Chapter 11 you have to get votes, and it's more complicated and expensive. Chapter 13 is more streamlined. So if you do a 13. You would do a 13, but there's all kinds of different chapters, and even of those chapters, there's sub chapters, like with the Chapter 11.
So a question. This is from Herb. Wants to know: does equity get wiped out in Chapter 11?
What equity? Talk about home equity.
I guess that's what he means.
But Chapter 11 is a restructuring. I mean, you can do a Chapter 11 liquidation, but usually Chapter 11 is a restructuring. So it's like a Chapter 13, you're keeping all your assets. So in Chapter 11, the point of doing the 11 would be to keep your equity in your home or investment property or maybe your business, whatever you're talking about. So no, nothing's getting wiped out because you're restructuring your debt. The way a corporation, they have money coming in, but their bills are too high, or their expenses it's got to restructure, but you're a viable entity. An individual can do it, but if you do a 13, you do a 13. But if you're doing 11, you're still keeping all your equity. Yeah, but the equity that you have that's not exempt would dictate the amount of money to unsecured creditors that has to get paid back, and some other thing. That's why you have a lawyer. But yeah, you're going to keep your equity. And that's
Kevin, is there any disadvantages of Chapter 11?
No, I mean, it's not like, hey, this could be fun. Let me file Chapter 11. You know what I'm saying? So there's, you got to take that in context, right? Someone's filing Chapter 11, they don't necessarily want to. I was on with another lawyer yesterday that I do some 11s with, talking to a client, a business client of who may be filing, and we talked to them last month. Lo and behold, the situation they said was getting taken care of is not, as we knew. So do they want to file 11? No. But, given the situation, it may be helpful. So, I mean, if you're like trying to pay back less money to certain people, but like if you're a business, like you want to keep your personal equity, or you're getting paid a certain amount, there's issues we got to resolve with that. That's why I have a professional. There's also in Chapter 11 what they call the absolute priority rule. So even if you're paying back somebody less than 100%, they could say, hey, I'm declaring absolute priority. I want to get paid in full. And then, of course, there's exceptions to that. So do you qualify for an exception where, okay, they're electing absolute priority rule, but I'm doing a plan that says no because this, and that's a whole thing. That's why you have lawyers, right? So the downside, sure. I mean, you're usually like if you have a business or even a person, you're a debtor in possession. So you're running yourself. You're running your own business. It's rare that you're removed and have someone run the business for you. It happens, but not really. I'm saying that usually it's not. So you're running it yourself, right? But you can't just do things. You got to do a budget. You may have cash collateral issues. You have to do motions for that. So you show them the court a budget, and you can't just do whatever you want. So in that respect, there's some downsides. But then again, the reason you're filing is because if you're not doing that, maybe they're attacking all your accounts receivable. Maybe they're foreclosing on you and taking your stuff. So in that respect, there is no downside, depending on the situation.
This is from Kenneth. He said, I keep hearing large companies restructuring under bankruptcy. Can a small business restructure also? And what does that look like?
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
understand restructure.
Yeah. Restructuring is just, you know, restructuring your maybe your expenses and income and your debts. Paying, like if you get a confirmed plan, that's the new contract. You're paying people back at this amount. So like let's say you file a 13 or 11. Creditors file a proof of claim. Or in Chapter 11, if you say I owe X amount of money to somebody and you're not disputing it, they don't have to file a claim, and that'll be the amount in the plan. Otherwise, the creditors file claims, right? And they itemize it, secured or not secured, and they have security agreements, they attach it. So then we could look at it, are we going to object to the claim? The amount's wrong, the amount's correct. This is so then we get that straightened out. You know what I'm saying? Now we know the dollar amounts. Then you categorize your creditors into different classes, how you're treating a certain class, right? So a small business, yes, as I was just saying a few minutes ago with Chapter 11, there's different kinds, right? There's a regular Chapter 11. There's actually a specific small business Chapter 11. There's the single asset real estate Chapter 11. There's what's called a sub 5 Chapter 11, which is also a different kind of small business one. So there's all kinds of different chapters for, there's no size limit for Chapter 11. I have small companies in there, some bigger companies in there. I have individuals in there. So the point is, the laws are still there for you. So there's no discrimination. You're too small to restructure. It's your business.
We're getting a lot of small businesses writing in today. Here's one. What are the most significant challenges a business might face with going through Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Chicago?
Well, it's not necessarily Chicago. I mean, it's in general, right. But this person should call me to do a consultation because everyone's different. Some people have different issues. Some people are being sued. There's cash collateral issues. Maybe they had the merchant account issues. Maybe I have a case in Wisconsin right now. There was issue, but the creditors, very flexible in working things out so far. I'm saying so. It's been very pleasure, working with some of these creditors so far. Other cases, man, there's some personal attacks. I mean, I was involved in Chapter 11. I was doing it in Iowa. I'm not licensed in Iowa, but I was pro hac vice in Iowa, and man, there was just brutal hatred on from the bank's people to my clients' representatives, and makes it a little more difficult and exciting. So there's everyone's situation is different. Like I don't know what's happening. In someone's case, if there's lawsuits or liens already that I'm taking away, are there a lot of employees? Are you behind on the employees or not? Are there critical vendors? So, and these are all resolvable. A lot of them are called first day motions, but that's what you have a lawyer for. So you would let me know what's going on. Hello? I just saw looked like
you
can you see me?
Somebody just wrote in, Kevin, wanting to know what is the process once they sign up with your company? This is in order about
for
bankruptcy.
Okay. So, well, there's different chapters, right? So I would give you the retainer agreements, disclosures. Then I have an online portal. I'm in the West Loop of Chicago. People could see me by appointment only, but I don't always need to see you. Or it could be Zoom, or it could be, phone. There's different ways. But regardless of whether you see me in person or not, we're in the cloud. This is 2025, going on 2026, right? This is modern technology. So I would give you the online intake questionnaire, which you do, at night or on the weekend, whatever. You fill it out best you can, assets, liabilities, your budget, give me your bills, put them down there, tell me what's going on, best you can, right? So I could take that information and start drafting my documents. I give you my document portal. I'll tell you what I need. You can upload documents. The online questionnaire is there. The retainer goes to you electronically to sign, right? I give you my direct line. that you could call and text as long as you don't abuse it. You have my regular line, and you have the secure messages. So if I send you a secure message by topic, it goes to your email. Hey, you got a secure message from Kevin Benjamin, green button, you hit it. Or if you send me one, vice versa, because that way I know, I get 1,000 spam emails like everybody else, but I know where my client secure messages are. So when I'm not like doing a podcast or on Zoom record or doing motions, when I'm actually like, okay, what's up with my clients today? I don't look at email. I don't want an email from you. I just go to my secure messages. Here's my clients' questions, or maybe they're texting me. Now, text, by the way, is not to analyze or give you a legal brief. Quick question. You want to set up a call? Got this letter. I could say do this. Whatever. But it's not like, and don't send me pictures of the pages and stuff like that, please. But texting, it's easy to communicate. So like when I'm drafting something, I may just text you or secure message a couple of questions as I'm getting the draft done for you. But then we're going to set up a time to go over things. So you call me, sign up remotely. I give you the intake remotely. I give you a document portal remotely. I give you ways to contact me directly, remotely, way to track things, right? And then when we need to meet, we schedule that, right? Either in person or Zoom, or because before you file, we have to go over the documents, dot the I's, cross the T's, make any changes. Did you forget something? Then you got to sign it, right? So then sometimes it's like I have someone just yesterday. I don't need them to come in, but in their case, they said it's really for their mother, and I was just talking to them. It's like it sounds like it may be easier if they bring her in, because some people aren't the computer, I send you the pages to sign online, scan them and send them back. Most people could do that, but it may be easier on some people. Okay, just come on in, once it's drafted, I'm saying, and we go over dot the I's, cross T's, and just make the signing right there. I could file it right then and there. So that's the process. It's really, years ago it was different, before the internet and all that kind of stuff and online stuff and so, but now it's pretty streamlined. It's just information and documents, right? And even the court calls are Zoom. Then you have a meeting. You have a meeting of creditors or a trustee meeting, whether it's Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. Those are done by Zoom now, right? Chapter 11, those are by phone call, not even by Zoom yet. So, and the court stuff, a lot, some courts in person, but a lot of it's Zoom. But you're not going to court. We are, okay? Unless there's a reason I want you there. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to worry about that. So it's pretty easy.
Kevin, whether it's tax resolution or bankruptcy, how do people reach you?
Okay, so BenjaminLaw.com or NobleTaxRelief.com, but BenjaminLaw.com is fine, because I do that's just the main law firm. 312-853-3100. You can go on attorneys plural at BenjaminLaw.com. But if you go to BenjaminLaw.com, there's a contact form you fill out. So, or you go on Calendly.com/Kevin Benjamin and see my calendar. Just get on for a quick an intro call or something like that. But you can call me or email me or just go to the webpage, because all the instructions are on the webpage to get a hold of me.
Kevin, you're the best. Kevin's going to be back again with us next month. Kevin, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you you always give out such great information. Thanks. And we'll see you again next month.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kevin. That's attorney Kevin Benjamin. He handles tax relief as well as bankruptcy in Illinois. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.